Imagine a place with fields of golden wheat and a small, cozy farmhouse. This is where Mr. Abernathy lived. He was a kind man, always ready with a smile, but his heart felt heavy. His wife, Martha, had passed away a few years ago, and the farm felt empty without her laughter. Mr. Abernathy worked hard every day, tending to his crops and animals. He missed Martha terribly, especially during the long evenings when the sun went down. He remembered her warm hugs and the way she used to hum while baking apple pies. Now, the pies were store-bought, and the hugs were just memories. He longed for someone to share his life with, someone to help him keep the farm alive, but he didn't know where to find that person. He was a simple farmer, not used to meeting new people. His days were filled with work, and his nights were filled with quiet memories. Little did he know, his life was about to change in a way he never expected. That unexpected turn wasn't a lucky break, though. The farm, once so prosperous, was now struggling. The summer had been too dry, the crops were withered, and the bank was threatening to take back the loan. Mr. Abernathy spent sleepless nights worrying about how he would pay his bills. He'd already sold some of his livestock, but it wasn't enough. He tried everything he could think of. He worked from sunrise to sunset, mending fences, plowing fields, and praying for rain. He even tried some new farming techniques he'd read about in a magazine, but nothing seemed to work. The farm was slowly slipping away, and with it, his hopes for the future. He felt like he was letting Martha down, that he wasn't strong enough to keep her legacy alive. The weight of his troubles pressed down on him, making his kind smile a little less bright each day. He needed a miracle, but miracles were hard to come by these days. Meanwhile, in a dusty, run-down house on the edge of town, lived Lily. She was 18 years old, with bright, hopeful eyes and a kind heart, but life hadn't been easy on her. Her parents had died when she was young, leaving her in the care of her uncle Silas, a cruel and selfish man who only cared about money. Silas treated Lily like a servant, forcing her to do all the housework and chores. He never gave her any new clothes or allowed her to go to school. Lily dreamed of a better life, one where she could be free and happy, but she felt trapped. She spent her days cleaning, cooking, and tending to the small, neglected garden behind the house, finding solace in the beauty of the flowers. She longed for a friend, someone to talk to, but Silas kept her isolated, afraid she might try to leave. She was like a bird in a cage, yearning to fly. One sweltering afternoon, Silas gathered the townsfolk in the town square. Lily stood beside him, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know what was happening, but she had a terrible feeling in the pit of her stomach. Silas cleared his throat and announced, in a booming voice, that he was auctioning off Lily to the highest bidder. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Lily's eyes widened in horror. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Was she a piece of property to be bought and sold? Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked around at the faces in the crowd. Some looked sympathetic, but most were simply curious. She felt like a trapped animal, with nowhere to run. Her uncle's greedy eyes scanned the crowd, already calculating how much money he would make. Lily's dream of freedom seemed to shatter into a million pieces. Mr. Abernathy had come to town to try and sell some of his tools, hoping to raise a little money. He heard the commotion in the town square and wandered over, curious. When he saw Lily standing on the makeshift stage, tears streaming down her face, and heard Silas's announcement, he was stunned. He couldn't believe what he was witnessing. He'd heard whispers about Silas's cruelty, but he never imagined he would stoop this low. Mr. Abernathy felt a surge of anger and disgust. He knew he shouldn't get involved, he barely had enough money to feed himself. But something about Lily's desperate eyes tugged at his heart. He wrestled with his conscience. Was it right to interfere? Was it even his place? He shuffled his feet, his hands clenching and unclenching. The bidding had already begun. The numbers climbed higher and higher. Mr. Abernathy watched, his heart sinking with each bid. He knew he should leave, that he couldn't afford to get involved, but he couldn't tear his gaze away from Lily. Her eyes met his for a brief moment, and he saw a flicker of hope, quickly replaced by despair. Something snapped within him. He couldn't stand by and watch this happen. Against his better judgment, he raised his hand and called out a bid. A murmur went through the crowd. Silas looked surprised, then a sly grin spread across his face. The bidding continued, and Mr. Abernathy, fueled by a mix of compassion and recklessness, kept bidding, pushing himself further and further into debt. Finally, he won. Silence fell over the square. Mr. Abernathy had bought Lily. He wasn't sure what he was going to do, but he knew he couldn't leave her there. The ride back to the farm was silent and awkward. Lily sat beside Mr. Abernathy in his old truck, staring out the window, unsure of what to say or think. She was free from Silas, but now she was at the mercy of a stranger. Was he kind? Was he going to treat her the same way her uncle did? Fear and uncertainty swirled inside her. Mr. Abernathy, equally unsure, stole glances at Lily. He hadn't planned any of this. He didn't know what to say to her. He just knew he couldn't leave her with that awful man. He cleared his throat, trying to break the silence, but the words caught in his throat. The farmhouse finally came into view, small and simple, but it was home. He hoped Lily wouldn't be too disappointed. He pulled the truck to a stop, and they both stepped out into the warm evening air. The crickets chirped, and the scent of wildflowers filled the air, but the tension between them remained thick. "Well," Mr. Abernathy began, shuffling his feet and avoiding eye contact. "This is it. It's not much, but it's home." He gestured awkwardly towards the house. I don't really know what to say." He took a deep breath. "I didn't buy you to. Well, you know." He stammered, his face turning red. "I just couldn't stand to see you stuck with Silas. He's a terrible man." He continued, "I know this is all strange, and you probably don't trust me, and that's okay. But I promise I won't hurt you. You can have a room here, and help out around the farm if you want. I'll pay you a fair wage, just like any other hired hand." He paused, looking at her hopefully. "You're free to leave whenever you want, but... Well, I could really use the help, and I think you deserve a safe place to be." He finished his clumsy explanation, feeling a little foolish but hoping he had gotten his point across. Lily listened to Mr. Abernathy's stammered explanation, her expression unreadable. She had heard promises before, all broken by her uncle. How could she trust this man, even if he seemed kind? She had learned to be wary of kindness, it often came with a hidden price. "Why?" she finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." She looked at him, her eyes searching for any sign of deceit. Was this some kind of trick? Was he expecting something from her in return? She had nothing to offer but hard work, and even that had been taken for granted by Silas. The thought of being trapped again, even in a nicer cage, filled her with dread. She needed time to figure out what to do, to see if Mr. Abernathy was truly different. But a part of her, a tiny spark of hope, began to flicker. The next morning, Lily woke up in a small but clean room. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. She dressed in the simple clothes Mr. Abernathy had provided and hesitantly made her way to the kitchen. Mr. Abernathy was already there, cooking breakfast. "Good morning," he said with a warm smile, though Lily couldn't quite meet his eyes. "Sleep okay?" She nodded, taking a seat at the table. After a silent breakfast, Mr. Abernathy showed her around the farm, explaining the different chores that needed to be done. He didn't pressure her to do anything, simply showing her the ropes. They started with feeding the chickens, then moved on to mending a section of fence. Working side by side, they began to find a rhythm, a shared purpose. Lily slowly began to feel a sense of accomplishment, something she hadn't felt in a long time. The farm work was hard, but it was honest, and for the first time, she felt like she was earning her keep. Days turned into weeks, and Lily started to see glimpses of the real Mr. Abernathy. He always made sure she had enough to eat, even if he went without. He never raised his voice, and he always treated her with respect. One evening, she saw him sitting on the porch, gazing at the sunset, a look of deep sadness on his face. She realized he was lonely too. One afternoon, a baby bird fell out of its nest. Lily gently scooped it up, her hands trembling. Mr. Abernathy carefully helped her build a makeshift nest and placed the bird back in the tree. It was a small act of kindness, but it spoke volumes. Lily began to understand that Mr. Abernathy wasn't like Silas. He wasn't cruel or selfish. He was just a good man who needed help, and maybe, just maybe, she could help him too. The wall around her heart began to crumble, brick by brick. One evening, a fierce storm rolled in, the wind howling and the rain lashing against the farmhouse. The power went out, plunging the house into darkness. Mr. Abernathy and Lily huddled together in the barn, seeking shelter amongst the hay bales. The animals were restless, and the thunder echoed through the night. Lily was scared, but she tried to hide it. Mr. Abernathy, sensing her fear, put a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It'll be all right," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. They sat in silence for a long time, listening to the storm rage outside. As the hours passed, the storm slowly began to subside. The shared fear and the close proximity created a bond between them, a sense of shared vulnerability. In the darkness, Lily felt a connection to Mr. Abernathy she hadn't expected, a feeling of safety and warmth that chased away the lingering fear. The storm had brought them closer, revealing a deeper understanding between them. The next spring, Lily was walking around the farm when she noticed a small, neglected patch of land near the old barn. Remembering the small garden she had tended at her uncle's house, she felt a familiar pull. She asked Mr. Abernathy if she could plant something there. He was hesitant at first, reminding her they needed to focus on crops that would bring in money. But when he saw the determined look in her eyes, he relented. Lily spent hours clearing the land, pulling weeds, and preparing the soil. She planted seeds for vegetables and flowers, carefully nurturing them with water and sunshine. To everyone's surprise, including her own, Lily had a real talent for gardening. Soon, the small patch of land was bursting with life, a riot of colors and fragrances. She discovered that she loved to nurture plants. Word spread around town about Lily's garden, and people started coming to the farm to buy her vegetables and flowers. Lily's garden became the talk of the town, and soon, Mr. Abernathy's farm was bustling with activity. People came from miles around to buy her fresh vegetables and beautiful flowers. The extra income helped Mr. Abernathy pay off some of his debts, and the farm started to thrive again. The dry, withered crops that had plagued him the previous year were replaced with healthy, vibrant plants. Lily's green thumb seemed to bring life back to the land. Mr. Abernathy was amazed by her talent and grateful for her hard work. He realized that Lily wasn't just a hired hand, she was a partner, a friend, and a vital part of the farm's success. The farm was no longer empty and lonely, it was filled with laughter, activity, and the sweet scent of Lily's garden. They had both found something they desperately needed, a purpose, a connection, and a reason to hope again. As they worked side by side, tending to the farm and sharing meals, a quiet affection began to blossom between Lily and Mr. Abernathy. He admired her strength, her kindness, and her unwavering spirit. She admired his gentle nature, his honesty, and his dedication to the farm. They found themselves laughing together more often, sharing stories and dreams. Mr. Abernathy started to look forward to seeing Lily's smile each morning, and Lily found comfort in his presence. However, they both hesitated to acknowledge their feelings. Mr. Abernathy worried about the age difference, and Lily was still scarred by her past experiences. They both feared rejection, unsure if the other felt the same way. They danced around their emotions, content with their friendship but yearning for something more. The unsaid words hung in the air between them, a silent question waiting to be answered. One sunny afternoon, a dusty old truck pulled up to the farm. Silas stepped out, his eyes narrowed and a sneer on his face. He had heard about Lily's success, about how her garden was bringing in money, and he wanted a piece of the pie. "Lily," he called out, his voice dripping with false sweetness. "Come here, girl. I've come to take you home." Lily froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She hadn't seen Silas since the auction, and the sight of him brought back all the fear and pain she had tried so hard to forget. She took a step back, instinctively seeking shelter behind Mr. Abernathy, who stood tall and protective in front of her. Silas's presence shattered the peaceful atmosphere, casting a dark shadow over the farm and threatening the fragile happiness Lily had found. The past had come back to haunt her. "She's not going anywhere with you, Silas," Mr. Abernathy said, his voice firm and unwavering. He stood his ground, his eyes fixed on Silas's. "Lily is free to make her own choices, and she chooses to stay here." He stepped closer, his presence intimidating. "You have no claim on her anymore. Leave now, and don't come back." Silas scoffed. "She's my niece. I have a right to look after her." But his voice lacked conviction. He could see the determination in Mr. Abernathy's eyes, and he knew he couldn't bully him. Mr. Abernathy's quiet strength surprised even himself. He had never stood up to anyone like this before, but he couldn't let Silas take Lily away. She deserved to be free, to be happy, and he would do everything in his power to protect her. He was no longer just a lonely farmer, he was her protector. Silas, seeing he was defeated, grumbled something under his breath and climbed back into his truck, speeding away in a cloud of dust. Lily watched him go, a wave of relief washing over her. She was finally free. She turned to Mr. Abernathy, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "For everything." She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "I want to stay, Mr. Abernathy. I want to stay here, with you, and work on the farm. This is my home now." The words tumbled out, a declaration of her feelings and her commitment. She looked at him, her heart pounding, waiting for his response. The farm, the garden, and Mr. Abernathy had become her safe haven, her family. She knew, with absolute certainty, that this is where she belonged. Mr. Abernathy's eyes widened, and a slow smile spread across his face. He reached out and gently took Lily's hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Lily," he said, his voice filled with emotion. I feel the same way." He paused, searching for the right words. "I know there's a big age difference between us, and it's not what I ever imagined, but I care about you deeply." He continued, "You've brought so much joy and life back to this farm, and to me. I can't imagine my life without you now." He looked at her, his eyes filled with love and hope. "If you're sure, if this is what you truly want, then I would be honored to have you stay, not just as a hired hand, but as my partner, my companion. My love." He squeezed her hand gently, a silent promise of a future filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. The unsaid words were finally spoken. Lily smiled, her heart overflowing with happiness. "Yes," she said, her voice clear and strong. "That's what I want more than anything." She leaned in and gently kissed Mr. Abernathy, a kiss that sealed their commitment and marked the beginning of their new life together. They spent the next few months planning their future, talking about their dreams for the farm and for each other. They decided to expand Lily's garden, adding more vegetables and flowers. They also started a small bakery, using Lily's delicious recipes. The farm became a haven for the entire community, a place where people could find fresh food, beautiful flowers, and a warm, welcoming atmosphere. They built their life on mutual respect, love, and gratitude, cherishing each other and the unexpected happiness they had found. The farm, once a symbol of loneliness and despair, was now a symbol of hope and new beginnings. Years passed, and the farm continued to thrive under Lily and Mr. Abernathy's loving care. The bakery became famous for its delicious pies and cakes, and Lily's garden was a source of beauty and inspiration for everyone who visited. They built a happy and fulfilling life together, their love growing stronger with each passing year. They never forgot the day they met, the day Mr. Abernathy took a chance and saved Lily from a life of misery. They had created their own family, bound not by blood but by love, respect, and gratitude. Mr. Abernathy was no longer a lonely widower, and Lily was no longer a trapped orphan. They had found each other, two souls who had been lost and alone, and together, they had built a life filled with happiness, companionship, and love. Their unexpected family was a testament to the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances.